Big story coming in. It's a huge relief for the family, the Central Reserve Police Force and the country that the CoBRA commando of the Central Reserve Police Force, Rakeshwar Singh Manhas, who was a hostage, who'd been taken hostage by red terrorists in Chhattisgarh after 6 days in Maoist custody. He has been released. We have just been told that Union Home Minister Amit Shah spoke to Constable Manhas, found out about his well-being. He is now back with the Central Reserve Police Force. Constable Manhas, a commando with the CRPF, was a part of the operation that had been undertaken in which a number of red terrorists had been neutralized, but the CRPF and the Chhattisgarh police also suffered multiple casualties, 22 fatalities and 31 injuries. But Constable Manhas is now back with the Central Reserve Police Force. Several journalists and members of the civil society were a part of the conversation with the Maoists in the jungles of Bijapur to secure his release, and talks were on for the past several days. Around 4:30 this afternoon, in the presence of a large number of villagers in that area, he was released. Now, details still very sketchy on the negotiations that went behind to secure the release of Constable Rakeshwar Singh Manhas, a CoBRA commando, who was a part of that operation in the forest. What we are also being told is that Dharampal Saini, a well-respected social worker of Chhattisgarh, and the Gondwana Samaj chief Golam Boraiya were all a part of the effort, including 7 other journalists, to secure the release of Constable Manhas. And we are getting his first reaction after his release. Let's listen in.
और उनका व्यवहार बहुत बढ़िया था, बहुत बढ़िया से रखा। जनता ने सरकार के सामने हमने अपील रखा था हमें छोड़ने के लिए, उन्होंने छोड़ा है और आप उनके शुक्रगुजार हैं कि उन्होंने हमारी अपील को सुना है। और अपनी सरकार से भी हम यही है कि मध्यस्थ भेज के उन्होंने हमें लेने के लिए यहाँ भेजे हैं।
His family, his daughter, they are very, very relieved. If you recall, his wife had made an appeal to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and to the Union Home Minister Amit Shah, saying that if India was able to ensure that Wing Commander Abhinandan was brought back safe and alive after bombing Pakistan, after carrying out an operation in Pakistan, then why is it that my husband is still in the custody of the Maoists? And they repeatedly said, do what you want, do what you can, ensure the release. So details of what went behind the scenes to secure this release of the images that you see on your television screen, we'll get you more details. But take a look at the effort that went in. And finally, Rakeshwar Singh Manhas, the CoBRA commando of the Central Reserve Police Force, is back with the CRPF, and we are told his morale remains high. His medical examination so far, preliminary information seems to indicate that there are no external injuries.
The 5-day ordeal of CRPF commando Rakeshwar Singh Manhas has ended. Ever since April 3rd, Manhas's fate was unknown after he was abducted by Maoists. He was missing after the deadly ambush in the Bijapur forests of Chhattisgarh, in which 22 security men were killed. The abducted CoBRA commando was freed in presence of hundreds of people. A group of journalists and local social worker, Dharampal Saini, are said to have mediated for Manhas's freedom. The Jawan was handed over to an 11-member team of the mediators and local police. At the residence of the CRPF Jawan in Jammu, joyous scenes erupted after the news of his release came in. Sweets were distributed to celebrate the moment.
Right now we are at the residence of Rakeshwar Singh Manhas here in Jammu, and behind me you can see the family members and the relatives of Rakeshwar Singh Manhas have erupted in joy as soon as they got the news of Rakeshwar Singh Manhas's release from the captivity of of Naxals, they started celebrating, they started hugging each other, they started distributing sweets.
बहुत बहुत खुशी है, मैं बहुत खुश हूँ.
अच्छा, क्या कहेंगे सरकार ने जो प्रयास किए?
क्या करना, थैंक यू सो मच उनके लिए.
अच्छा, पिछले कई दिनों से मायूसी का माहौल था.
हाँ, माहौल तो था पिछले.
लगता था आपको, मतलब उम्मीद थी पूरी कि वो नक्सली उनको छोड़ देंगे?
हाँ, पूरी उम्मीद तो थी, बट डर भी था.
और बहुत ज़्यादा शुक्रिया, थैंक यू सरकार का और मोदी का और मीडिया वालों का. बहुत उम्मीद रखी थी हमने, भाई चलो घर आएगा. पहला दिन बहुत मुश्किल से निकाला, दूसरा दिन थोड़ा अच्छा आ गया. ऐसा करते करते थोड़े दिन 3-4 दिन जो निकाले बहुत मुश्किल से, आज का दिन बहुत अच्छा आया हमारे पास.
After the loss of 22 security men in the bloody gun battle, the abduction of the commando had come as an added blow. His return on Thursday was a small consolation for the forces still reeling under the devious Naxal ambush. With Kamaljeet Sandhu in Raipur and Sunil Bhatt in Jammu, Bureau Report, India Today.
And India Today's Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu is on ground zero. She joins me for more on this big story. Kamal, what went behind the scenes to secure Constable Manhas's release, and what can you tell us about his condition after his medical examination?
Well, the good news first, Gaurav, he seems to be in good health. Rakeshwar Singh Manhas is doing well. Union Home Minister Amit Shah spoke to him just shortly. So yes, that's a shot in the arm coming in, not just for him, his family, but also the entire force, because this will lift the morale of the forces. They'd already lost 22 lives, and then this one person being held captive was one of a tipping point. But now that this has been put aside, remember, the forces can get back on action, and there would be a retaliation. So yes, but remember, important part was about how Naxals wanted to negotiate with the government. Now, outwardly, the government did not want to negotiate because that's one of those terms. And one of the hard line which has been taken by the government is that if any negotiation has to be done, then the Maoists have to surrender. That was not happening. So informally, it was...
Kamal, was there a quid pro quo involved? Was there a quid pro quo involved for the release of Rakeshwar Singh Manhas? Did the security forces, did the government have to release any Maoists? What was the give?
Well, the counterpart was that there is a propaganda at play, the higher moral ground, the sort of display that the Maoists did, releasing the soldier in front of several of the villagers. That is one of the psyops. So this was to their advantage, and they could not have carried on the soldier for several days. We've seen the hostage crisis play. This is during Alex Paul Menon, one of the IS officers who was abducted way back in 2012. In 2017, a Canadian was abducted who was cycling through Sukma region. So clearly the hostage point has been used to the advantage, and this time again. But remember, a man without arms could not have been much of an advantage till a certain point, and this is where the Maoists actually had to give up that release. A negotiation were definitely on. Several of the journalists, the fourth media, the fourth estate came into play. The other was social workers. So all those people around were, there was no government appointed negotiator as such, but informally it was done, and it was done much more quickly than expected. So people were putting a timeline between 2 to 3 days to a week's time, but it came at much earlier, much to the relief of the family, the CRPF family also. So clearly, this is some bit of relief and good news coming in. But remember, the counter Naxal operation are in the offing. There are massive ground movements which are taking place, patrolling taking place. So we do expect that
any details of the conversation? Any details? What was the conversation with the Union Home Minister Amit Shah like?
Yes, the Union Home Minister dialed in the soldier, spoke to him. The conversation was in Hindi, and he asked about the well-being, about how the soldier was feeling. So yes, the soldier has given a positive feedback to the Home Minister. That's what our sources indicate. It seems all is well for now, but let's hope the challenge for security forces in the next few days, that's what the Home Minister went there on the ground, cancelling his visit to the coal-bound state of Assam. And now that he has spoken there, it will lift the morale of the forces. But remember, challenges ahead still remain.
Oh, absolutely. And it remains to be seen whether counter-terror operations are intensified with effective planning and domination of the territory, with commandos on ground leading the men so that these casualties can be avoided in future. Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu for the moment. Many thanks for joining me.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.